The global energy market, it's a total roller coaster, right? It's always being shaken up by economic shifts and geopolitical tremors. So it makes you wonder, how does a major player not just survive all that, but actually plan for the future? Well, today we're going to dive deep into the strategy of Thai Oil and see exactly how they navigate this incredibly volatile world.
All right, so let's set the scene here. 2024, wow, what a year. It put immense pressure on the global economy. I mean, you had high inflation, trade policies shifting all over the place, and conflicts bubbling up. It all came together to create this really challenging environment. And that, of course, put companies like Thai Oil to the absolute test.
And that really brings us to the core question of this whole explainer, doesn't it? How do you not just, weather the storm, but actually build a ship that's strong enough for any sea? We're going to find the answer by using Thai Oil's journey through 2024 as our case study. So here's our game plan. We'll start by looking at that global storm they had to face. Then, we'll check out the impact on the numbers, because the numbers never lie, right? After that, we'll dive into their big resilience strategy, look at the foundation of trust it's all built on, and finally, take a peek at the path ahead. Sound good? Let's get into it.
First up, riding the global storm. So what were the major headwinds that Thai Oil was really up against in 2024?
Okay, so challenge number one, it came from one of the world's biggest economic players. The slowdown in China, man, it sent ripples across the entire globe, and that directly hit the demand for energy and petrochemicals.
And hey, don't just take my word for it. This isn't just some theory. The company's own annual report points a finger right at it. They talk about weak domestic consumption and a struggling property sector in China as being key pressure points on the whole market.
But it wasn't just the economy. On top of all that, the world stage itself was, well, it was far from stable. Ongoing conflicts and constantly shifting international relations just added another thick layer of uncertainty to the energy markets. And again, this is something the company was watching like a hawk. Their report explicitly lists these geopolitical flashpoints as creating a ton of volatility and risk. We're talking about things that directly impact everything from crude oil prices all the way down to global supply chains.
Okay, so we've got this backdrop of economic pressure and geopolitical instability. The big question is, how did all these powerful global headwinds actually hit the company's bottom line? Let's get into the numbers. So, in 2024, Thai Oil brought in a sales revenue of over 455 billion baht. Now, that's a massive number, no doubt about it. It shows they were still an absolute powerhouse of activity, even in a really tough market. But revenue is only one part of the story. The net profit for the year? That came in at just under 10 billion baht. Now, to really understand what these numbers mean, we need to see them in context.
Okay, now this is where it gets really interesting. This table tells the whole story. If you look at the sales revenue on the left, it's stayed pretty darn stable over the last 3 years, right? But now, look at the net profit on the right. Whoa, it's basically been cut in half from 2023, and it's less than a third of what it was back in 2022. This just brilliantly shows you the intense pressure on profitability that those global headwinds really created.
So when you're faced with that kind of pressure, you can't just sit back and hope for the best. You have to act. So how did Thai Oil respond? This brings us to their resilience strategy, their master plan for building a kind of protective moat for the future.
All right, at the very heart of their plan is something they call the 2S1P strategy. It's basically a three-pronged attack. First up, you have strengthen core. That's all about beefing up their main refinery and petrochemical business. Then there's sustain future, which is about investing in high-value and low-carbon energy. And finally, power platform, which is all about using their existing strengths to launch new opportunities. Pretty smart.
You can see it's a real balancing act, right? On one hand, they're doubling down on what they do best, those massive, complex refinery operations that are the engine of the company today. But at the same time, they're strategically getting themselves ready for the energy landscape of tomorrow.
But, a brilliant strategy is only as good as the foundation it's built on. For any company trying to navigate this much uncertainty, trust and transparency are everything. And that's where corporate governance becomes the absolute backbone of resilience.
So how do they make sure that foundation is solid? Well, Thai Oil has this really robust system in place to keep operations transparent and compliant. We're talking about a strict anti-fraud and no-gift policy, really tight controls on internal information, a protected channel for whistleblowers, and they put any transactions between related parties under a microscope to make sure everything's fair. This is the internal machinery that really builds that trust.
All right, let's bring it all home. How does this all come together? Let's wrap up with their path forward.
When you put all the pieces together, navigating those external shocks, executing a smart, forward-looking strategy, and then reinforcing it all with a strong ethical foundation, the story of Thai Oil really becomes one of building a truly resilient company. It's an organization designed not just to survive uncertainty, but to actually find a way to thrive within.
And that kind of leaves us with one last big thought to chew on. In a world that's defined by constant, unpredictable change, what's actually more critical for long-term survival? Is it a clever external strategy that can adapt to the market? Or is it that unshakable internal foundation of governance and trust? It's a tough one, definitely something to think about.